Welcome back to the Boozers Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Amir Motamani. I am joined today by three of my co-hosts, Neil, Panos, and Vonnie. How are you guys doing today?
Good,
Doing
man.
great. How are you?
Great. Not too bad. Can't complain. We're also joined by a special guest, our friend Nino, aka Incognito, who is a Warriors fan. How are you doing today, Nino?
Doing great. As Clay said, I'm on cloud 109. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep. Love that quote. So yeah, for today's episode, we're gonna provide a quick recap of the Game 6 NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the champion Golden State Warriors. They won 103-90. Before we get into that recap, just want to go around the horn and see what everybody's drinking today. So typically start off with Neil. Neil's actually on the road in New Mexico today. So Neil, what do you got?
I got a Santa Fe Brewing right here.
That's what the beer's called?
Hazy IPA from Santa Fe Brewing because I'm in New Mexico.
Cheers. All right, Panos, what do you got?
I got a lot of things going on right here. So I'll start off with the water, just regular water. I have water with apple cider vinegar for backup. I got coffee right here. And then I have some peanut butter. A little bit of everything.
Soda is growing, man.
Definitely not a drink. Okay. Nino, what you got today?
I got a classic, I think, of the group. Everybody knows this. Everybody loves it. It's Pliny the Elder from Russian River Brewery. If you haven't had it, it's a top-notch beer. You should definitely check it out.
Awesome. Funny.
I got just a Heineken, man. Nice and easy.
Not bad. Seems refreshing. I got a gin and tonic that I'm drinking right now. It's a very nice and pretty bright day in San Francisco, so felt like drinking a gin and tonic. So awesome, guys. Cheers with the peanut butter. Excited to have you guys here. Golden State Warriors, champions again, 4 times in the past 8 seasons. Spectacular game, another blowout. Every single victory in this playoff finals has been a double-digit victory. So amazing, performance by multiple players. So Golden State players, like Nino mentioned and Clay mentioned, are on cloud 109. Boston Celtics fans, like Panos, even though he's wearing a Lakers jersey for some odd reason today, are a little disappointed with their performance and their opportunity. But hey, they're really young. They have a lot of opportunities in the future. But they just played really badly over the past 3 games. So excited to talk about this game 6. And so want to start off with the Celtics fan. So Panos, I know you picked the Warriors to win in 7, which was incorrect technically.
Yeah.
We all know you're rooting for Tatum, aka Boston. So just thoughts on game 6 and how disappointed are you in your team for not prevailing?
I mean, where do I start? I mean, they just suck. I don't know. Like Tatum played poorly. I don't know one good player that played well on that team game 6, besides maybe Al Horford, who gave like 110% at age 36 or some shit like that. But yeah, they played poorly. Warriors came out strong. I mean, I'm bummed out that Tatum didn't do well, but at the end, it's still 17-17 Lakers and Celtics. I think Tatum loved Kobe so much that he wanted to throw the game away for the Lakers to stay tied with the Celtics in championships. But yeah, Warriors looked strong. They came out in the first quarter, and I thought it was going to be a blowout from the start. Somehow the Celtics made a game out of it, and then after that, the Warriors just took off. I mean, even game 6, Clay didn't play well, but everyone else on that team just showed up. Poole showed up off the bench. Payton was good on defense. Green was amazing overall. And then Wiggins was Wiggins, and Curry had himself a night.
Let's unpack that. You said 17-17 rings. So you're okay to say that now, but you're rooting for the Celtics. And if they won, that would have been 18-17.
Yeah, sadly,
Tatum
Tatum plays for the
for what you
Celtics.
just said, that you're happy it's 17-17 still, yet you're still rooting for the Celtics. So unpack that real quick.
I mean, Tatum, I like Tatum. Tatum is a Laker guy at heart. Unfortunately, we passed up on him on the draft. We took Lonzo Ball, and look where he is now. Chicago. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, he's wearing green. But yeah, it wouldn't matter because I think even if we drafted him, he would have been traded for the 80 anyway. So
All right, nice. Thank you for the rambling. None of that doesn't make any sense. Let's go to Vonnie, who's actually wearing. That was a very political answer. You dodged the question, so that made no sense. But thank you. So Vonnie, great shirt. Which and Kerr. I don't know who you're voting for in the next election. It might be Kerr and then Popovich as his VP, right? Just because Kerr won his fourth championship as a coach, top 20, 15 coach of all time. Vonnie, thoughts on the game? Maybe even if you want to include thoughts on what Panos just said. I don't know if any of understood.
It's not supposed to make sense.
I don't know if I want to acknowledge Panos, what he just said right now. But
the only thing I'll say about Panos really quick about the 17-17, there might be a little asterisk on the last Lakers win.
Come on, bro.
Bubble,
Come on.
From the bubble with old guys and guys that are always injured playing into your hands. That's all I'm going to say.
He hurt himself 3 times in that playoffs.
Yeah, I don't. The entire bubble was its own thing. Yeah, as far as the game goes, it was just more of the same, right? I think those last 3 games, I think all of us had predicted what Warriors in 6 or 7, so we ended up kind of being on the money on that. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like you guys know, I was even though I thought the Warriors were going to win, I was rooting for the Celtics, and I think that Tatum and what we saw as far as that level of inconsistency from the Celtics during the entire playoff run, even though they were really, really good finishing out the back half of the regular season, all the same stuff that we saw during the playoffs all bubbled up. The turnovers, the poor dribbling, the inconsistency from who you're, supposed to be your number 1 and 2 guys in terms of Brown and Tatum, just having huge stretches of not playing number 1 top A level basketball, and you're just not going to win. And especially against this Warriors team where they've got so much savvy, so much experience, and they're just so well balanced, and they have the mental edge on everybody. On the side of that too, I'm definitely kind of a Warriors hater, right? Again, being a Rockets fan, I got some resentment there. And I think honestly, but a lot of my resentment's towards just Draymond. He's easy to not like, obviously, but Curry and Clay, I got a lot of respect for him. I love the storyline of Clay bouncing back. Obviously, that guy had 2 monster injuries, and to see him, just make it back to the top of the mountain again is pretty special. And then Curry, I'm happy for the dude because he is one of the best basketball players ever, and I think that he's always gotten, just hasn't gotten the fair shake in terms of their narrative, especially with him not getting Finals MVP, which you can stop talking about that. We said before the finals started, he's the best player in the series, and he showed it. And the guy's lethal, man. And I think their respect needs to be there. So he's definitely part of that conversation, man. So happy for the dude because he's played great basketball since he came to the league. He's always been an underdog. He has a great story as far as family and father and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's good for the NBA. It's good for his career. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. He probably should have won 2 Finals MVPs.
Andre Iguodala definitely stole one out, but it happens.
Yeah, one of the most forgettable Finals MVPs probably. But yeah, I totally agree. Just thoughts on Curry's performance specifically. Not only in that game, Curry had 34, 7, and 7. So obviously spectacular game for him, crazy 3-pointer, 6 for 11. He had one bad game, which was the 0 for 9. Otherwise, he was shooting 52% from 3 the entire series. Neil asked in the cast, has he made more than 4 in each game? And he did. It was 7, 7, 5, and 6, and then 0. Back to getting 6. So just thoughts on Curry's game and then just Curry's performance in the series overall.
Game 6 performance, I think, from Curry is clutch, right? I think you look at that, and I think a stat that kind of came up in the most 30-point games in finals clincher, MJ with 5, Curry with 3, Shaq with 2, Bill Russell with 2. And that's it. That alone, kind of going back to what kind of Vonnig said of maybe not the mountaintop, but that at least that top 10 or whatever it may be. We can get into that later. But clutch, would I have to say, for that Game 6 performance, right? All around, including his defense, right? Talk about his defense. I think it was 3 for 12 was guys against him during this last game, including 6 turnovers. Gone are the days of kind of looking for him and targeting him as that defensive person. Yeah, exactly.
Jordan Poole, basically.
Exactly, which is Jordan Poole, and something that he's got to work on in the offseason. So I think
he's got the right person to teach him how to step up on that end, right? Steph Curry.
Absolutely.
Draymond even.
Yeah, I mean the whole crew. I mean, just learn from GP2 at this point, right? Like exactly as much as he can. Overall, in regards to his what he did in this entire series is, I mean, iconic, right? I mean, absolutely iconic. And just throw another guy stat at you guys: the most times averaging 35 and 5 in a finals. MJ with 3, James with 3, Curry with 2, and Jerry West with 2. It's amazing. It's amazing what we're witnessing right now. And I have to sit back and try to just enjoy it as much as possible. Because it's, Vegas throws up the numbers for next year already, right? And I know we're going to get into next year and stuff, but you get excited about what's to come. But it's really a time to just sit back and relish what just happened and be appreciative that we have somebody like this during our generation, during our lifetime, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Neil,
hey, real quick, Nino, what's going on your little mantle back there?
Oh, this is season ticket holder to the Warriors, so get some bobbleheads being a season ticket holder. So we got in the middle here. Oh, what is this on my head? Oh, sorry about that. I guess just showed up. I showed up out of nowhere. I don't know.
All the time?
Just championship. I just wear it. I just wear it all the time now. I got Curry in the middle here, Clay, Draymond, and KD. KD on the outside over here. Iggy and Looney are over in the other corner over there.
You got Durant. Why you got Durant in timeout?
He's not in the inner circle.
Oh,
So he's just barely. He's there though. 2 championships. He's an absolute, stud. So
you should get a bobblehead of Wiggins and have it staring down Durant.
That was perfect segue because I was going to ask Neil and mention there's a person missing on there that might be on there one day in the future, which is Andrew Wiggins. So Neil, I don't know if you mentioned him as the X factor. I think you did, right? As one of the key contributors.
It's crazy to see his career. I mean, he was supposed to play with LeBron. LeBron's like, no, I'm trading you away to set up my dynasty in Cleveland. And ever since then, he's been just swimming uphill, trying to make it as someone that is worth the number 1 pick. But he showed you in this finals that he's absolutely as talented as you want a number 1 pick to be. It mattered the most, and he came up when his team needed it. So props to Andrew Wiggins. It's been a really uneven career to get here, but I mean, now he's winning and he's at the top of the mountain, and you have to feel like it's only going to make him a more confident player moving forward in the future.
Still young too, right? Isn't he 26, 27?
Yeah, I mean, this is when you expect someone to start hitting their prime. So if that's what we're about to get from Wiggins, that could be pretty scary.
Yeah, especially on the defensive end. He still has room to grow with his shooting capabilities and just being more aggressive. But defensively it was huge, and he shut down a player I hate on the Celtics, who many think is a superstar. Some still think you could argue either way, but not the biggest fan of Jason.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times when you have the discussion about a superstar, it's really easy to answer either yes, they are, or no, they're not. But then with Tatum, there's an interesting little debate happening with, is he a superstar or not right now?
Right. Panic, what do you think about this?
No, he's not that guy.
Points on both sides right now.
He's not that guy. Dude, you can probably name 10 people that are better than him right now. I'm just saying, superstar status. He's not that guy. Luka is a superstar. You know what I mean? I would even put Ja
Going
ahead
into
of
the
him right now.
finals, everyone was saying that about Tatum. They're like, this guy is a superstar. This is that guy. And now
Well, yeah.
that's called into question because the finals wasn't his best performance. So I think it's still an open question. I can't, it's not like 100% one way or the other. Next
I
year,
don't.
we're just going to learn more about Tatum. He might have a better year next year. He's going to be 25 next year. So
I'm sure he will have a better year next year. But like, a superstar is your label a superstar. You show up in big games, like, and I know you have Wiggins on you, but yeah, but I mean, like, take Kobe for example. They put their best defenders on him. The Kobe stopper, Rudy Patterson, or whatever.
Like Kobe is a top 10 player, top 5 player.
I know, but like I don't like
still trying to get there.
Like Amir talked about it, like we talked about it. It's like he doesn't have that mentality, like that cutthroat mentality, like some killers do, like a Jordan.
It
or
sounds
like
you're saying that you either have it or you don't. You can't like create it out of nothing.
Yeah.
he doesn't, Bonnie. You know he's not.
Yeah, dude, give the guy time, dude. Literally just got them to Game 6 of the NBA Finals. He's going to be 25 years old. You're already like putting the guy's tombstone up for a guy that's just barely getting into the prime of his career.
I know.
Look what he did to get to the finals, right? I mean, Amir can talk about it the most, right? I mean, putting up 40-point games, clutch shots constantly, game winners against the Nets, like beating the Nets that everybody had at the beginning of this, and even going into the postseason, frankly, as winning, like going to the finals.
They swept the Nets, and this guy, dude, if the Rockets traded for him today, I'd shit my pants. Like the guy is still absolutely like a top 20 NBA player.
He's top 20. He's not top 10.
Oh, he's not
easily top 15.
He's still top 15. Are you kidding me?
Top 15, and maybe some people think he's top 10. I don't know the list off the top of my head, but somewhere in the top 10 to 15.
He's 10 to 15 range, but like he still shit the bed. Like he had a terrible finals performance. Hot take, the Nets were fucking trash. Like they had issues with Kyrie playing half the season. They had a trade where they had new players like Steph's brother, Drummond, different role players. Joe Harris was out for the whole season, basically. Ben Simmons didn't play. Like Harden left, got traded halfway through the season. Like, sure, they swept KD. That's awesome. But KD was coming off a knee injury throughout the year as well. So sweeping any team is awesome. Like that's hard to freaking do. So kudos there. But then I don't think that, honestly, in my opinion, not because I just hate the Celtics, because I don't like the Bucks either. I hate the Celtics more, but because they have a mini rivalry with the Heat. But Middleton was out. That's a different series of freaking their second best player, NBA champion, like clutch scorer on their team who can get buckets without having to be like a Shaq type of player, which is Giannis, right? Like how he's a force inside, not outside threat. Like, people are saying they had the hardest like path ever. Like I just mentioned what happened with the Nets throughout the year. I mentioned Middleton was out, and then my excuse for the Heat, like we had players out too. They did too as well, but not as much as us. Hero out 4, Lowry out 2, Jimmy got hurt too. So like it wasn't the hardest path ever. Like they had like the perfect storm, which a lot of teams all do to get to the finals. You know, there's injuries every fucking year. You can say asterisks about anything, especially about the Lakers in the bubble. Especially that. If the Heat won, no asterisks. The Lakers won.
Yeah, kiss my ass.
Just the Panos. Any of my other Laker
give me
fans,
my goddamn respect.
No, my friend Alex. My friend Alex is a Laker fan. I have other friends who are Laker fans. I'll say, hey, good job. But the Panos, no, bad job. He's a freaking Boston fan.
Out of all the Laker fans, I'm probably the most humble and fucking the realest Laker fan. Like I know when we suck, and you still give me shit.
The fact that you rooted for the Boston Celtics makes you the fakest Laker fan ever. Anyway, so Tatum, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 for 18, like 5 turnovers. Him and Jaylen Brown like cannot dribble. Like he shot so poorly. He had 2 games where he had 10 and 13 points. Like I know he's on the cusp of becoming a superstar, and he's like obviously an all-star, but like that doesn't cut it. Like I'm sorry, like there's a lot of players like Steph Curry was 25 when he won his first championship. Like he was clutch. Like Kevin, like,
that is like, does Tatum go to the lab this offseason and use this as like motivation to take the next step? Because
absolutely,
of course,
absolutely. I mean,
he would, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at that second half.
Yeah, the self-awareness to know that he came up short. He was really close to what he was looking for, and he's going to go into the off season and work his ass off to get better.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to that clutch gene to talk about Kobe and him having that like X factor, that it factor, that Mamba mentality. You don't in a closeout game at home have 2 points, 1 for 8, 2 turnovers in the second half. You don't do that, right? And that's motivation enough to go into this offseason and say like, hey, I mean, going back to what you were saying about maybe like it's not Tatum's fault. Frankly, I put more of the onus on the coaching staff, like Udoka, in regards to not changing up the game plan. It was obvious after game 3-ish that take Tatum and Brown to their left, double team hard. Once they get into the lane, they're going to make mistakes. Yep. And they kept on doing that over. Sure, driving and kicking can work out once in a while. It worked out for them, but they kept on doing that over and over. And then I would say on the defensive end, we talk about hero ball sometimes, right? You look at like the KD and Russell Westbrook back in the day. Sorry, Vonnie. You look at the Harden Rockets, and there's a lot of hero ball there. I would say they kind of had this defensive hero mentality of, listen, our guys one-on-one, we're going to switch everything. We're better than you, and it's going to work. Well, hey, you had every pick and roll you did, drop coverage. You thought your guys were better. It didn't work out. Curry torched you. Sure, you got a couple games. It worked out. But then eventually you kept doing the same thing over and over, and it didn't work out for you. Then you changed it up and got a little more aggressive, but not hedging that double team hard. Curry had not that great of a game, and everybody else kind of went off. So I think this was a learning moment, not for the Celtics, honestly, in totality, not only from like a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. I think they're going to be phenomenal. I think they're going to come back and be in the mix for years to come.
This was a 500 team in January, and then that was an incredible mid-season turnaround. So, I mean, the East is pretty strong, I would say, very top-heavy. So nothing's guaranteed in terms of making it back here, but given what they have proven that they are since January 1st, I really like Boston's chances. And you have to figure that Tatum is just going to be like maniacal, trying to get better, using this as motivation. And then he's like, next year, I don't even want this to be a conversation. I'm clearly a top 10 player in the league. That's kind of what I'm expecting from Tatum. And if he's just like a little bit sharper next year, he can make this more of an interesting series and potentially win a title. But I mean, you still got Milwaukee. They're getting Middleton back. They're a problem. Amir could probably have his own podcast where he tells us about Miami's chances, so
Mitchell.
But the East is still going to be tough to get through. I mean, Milwaukee probably like their chances of making the finals if you look at the start of the first round when they had Middleton healthy, but then Middleton gets injured in the first round and then everything changes. So it's going to be tough to get back here, but I just expect Boston will be better, but that doesn't always mean you're going to win a championship.
Yeah, and like they were so close, because like bad as they played at times, they were still within every game. I feel like even the ones they lost, which pretty much every game was a double digit, but it wasn't like 20-point blowouts. They were all roughly between 10 and 13 points. And at certain points in two of those games, for sure, we know they came back, right, in the third quarter and took leads. It was just turnovers and also bad shooting. But the turnovers, though, like some are just boneheaded, like Tatum and Brown.
Maybe they're just tired, like mentally, and they're just not making good decisions anymore.
Maybe good thing you said mentally, because they're 23.
At the end of the series,
Yeah,
they're just like worn out, making dumb mistakes, missing.
It's interesting you bring up the tired stuff. Didn't they play like hundreds of minutes more than the first top Warrior player?
Yeah, I mean they got
throughout
pushed
the entire playoffs.
against Milwaukee, barely beat Miami. They almost choked in the Miami series away.
Yeah,
like, Miami could have won that series. We had a whole conversation about Jimmy Butler. That seems like such a long time ago, but
yeah, but also fuck that. They're young. Marcus Smart's young. He's 20. They're 28. Yeah. They're 23. The only old person is freaking Horford. Like, isn't Robert Williams like 25? Like, come on.
Yeah, they're babies.
they're freaking babies. They had a 4-game series. Let's talk about the sweep. They played, they're the only sweep in the entire playoffs. Like, they had rest. They're freaking young. Like, it was just the mental pressure and just the wear that the Warriors defense put on them. Just which I said didn't get enough recognition multiple times throughout the playoffs. And the last 3 games, it was a combination, not just the Warriors defense, because their Celtics offense is so amazing. But again, we always talk about this, Wanik, that it's Jaylen Brown and Tatum they go to the right pretty much every single time, and they're not that great at dribbling the ball, and they don't finish that great at the rim as well. And a lot of times the refs were letting some hand checks, the last 3 games, both ways, and these young players that are not used to hand checking, they can't get by people, and so it's harder for them to get by. They make mistakes, and then Jaylen Brown gets caught up in the air a lot too. Like, when he penetrates, a help defender comes in, he jumps in the air, gets caught, throws a cross-court pass, gets intercepted. So it's like a combination of the elite Warriors defense and the boneheaded young, maybe mentally tired plays. But just talk on Warriors defense, Vonnie, the last 3 games and how they stepped up as a team, and then individually, if you want to mention some players.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it spot on. One with the Celtics, I mean, like, dude, I felt like half of their turnovers are just completely careless, and like one after the other. And the penetration, right? Like you just said with Tatum and Brown, like those guys, I hope they sign up for some like a basketball camp, set up some cones, and just like learn how to dribble, because they go inside, they get they pack the paint, they swipe, and it's turnover the other way, which you don't want the Warriors running back on transition on you, because you know what happens. It's a 3-pointer, it's Curry, somebody getting loose, or like I said, if they're ahead of it, they're already getting the layup or the dunk. You're just feeding a hot Warriors offense easy points, and you're burying yourself. So the Warriors defense it's the same defense they've had, man. They're consistent, and the anchor, the one, like I said, I hate the guy, but he is the anchor. It's Draymond. He doesn't need to get you the stats. He is the perfect number 3 to that team. And again, as much as I don't like him, like I said, he is the anchor. He facilitates everything. He's selfless. He doesn't look for his shot. He takes it when he needs to, when he's like wide open, but everything he does is about setting the screen and waiting for Curry or Clay to come off the screen and hit. Everybody says, why don't you shoot? He's not supposed to shoot. And he says, like, why would I shoot when I'm shooting with the 2 best shooters in the league ever, potentially, right? So he's just perfect for that team. And like I said, they knew with those guys just going downhill every time and then packing the paint and swiping. And then you got somebody like Looney and Wiggins, these long guys that can kind of still space the floor, stretch out, on your stretch 5s on the Celtics. And then also, like I said, to pack and swipe and get the transition game going. It was perfect. It's what they've been doing for 5-6 years now.
Yeah, it's huge. And I can't believe the Warriors held the Celtics to under 100 points 3 games in a row. And that was Neil's key to victory every time he predicted the Warriors to win, right?
Came true. I mean, props to the Warriors. Once they figured out what they needed to do defensively after game 3, they probably weren't happy with their defensive effort. But after that, they just got down to business, and 3 games in a row, that's pretty decisive, especially when you're down 2-1 in a series. With the stakes this high, like, that's impressive. That is very impressive.
Yeah, and the Celtics lost multiple games at home, just worse home record than road record in the playoffs, which is just like absurd for especially a fan base.
That's the thing about Boston. You
historic, right?
Like, so close, but there's so many ways they can improve. So if you kind of weigh those 2 things together, it's just like this team could be a very dominant squad if they properly get all their ducks in a row and they're all set to go. They could be a dangerous team, but it remains to be seen if they can actually clean up the turnovers, protect home court, things that you almost take for granted sometimes.
Either their top 3 guys need to get better handles, or they need to go out into the market and get a true point guard. I don't think Marcus Smart is that point guard, right? Phenomenal player. Love to have him on. He's their Draymond, right? Love to have him on my team, but he's not the guy that I want the ball in his hands, knowing that I cannot make stupid errors.
I want to say what Nino just said. I agree with too. Like, Marcus Smart, great player. There's a lot of moments where when the Warriors were going on these big runs, and what Nino said earlier too, like the Celtics offense really did revert back to ISO ball, where it was just like, let me give it to Tatum, let me give it to Brown, and let them go and create and do what they're going to do, which is what again led to all these turnovers. And there was no free flowing offense again, where the Warriors are just passing the ball, getting it to the open guy, and taking the right shot. It was just like, hey, we're in panic mode, give it to our superstar and let him go and get the bucket, which they weren't getting the bucket. So having a point guard that can, again, like the Chris Paul type of a point guard where he could slow it down, get everybody in their positions, run the offense, it's important.
No turnovers.
Yeah.
He's a turnover machine.
You know, the best path for that, I think Boston should get like a backup point guard that fits that criteria, that can run an offense, because he's going to be cheap on the market. And then if Marcus Smart is having one of those games, you have your second string point guard come in and run the offense. And
Yeah.
it can help you stay in those like team oriented, free flowing offensive concepts. And he's not like a superstar that's going to demand like a big market, like a big contract from the market. You know what I'm saying? So I think small changes like that on the edges could really make your team a lot better. You know who I thought of is Tyus Jones.
That's what I was
Tyus
going to
Jones
say.
is such
He's
a
going to
good
get paid, though.
point guard, and he would be perfect on Boston.
He's going to get paid, though. He's not going to go.
That's the thing. It might be out of their market to sign him, but that's the first name that came to my head.
Yeah. What about like a Tyreek Evans or?
Does Rondo come back?
That's the Lakers move.
Is it
Not-
Or Dennis
not Rondo,
Schroeder.
It's the Lakers move.
Hey, but randomly,
Schroeder would not work there.
he's not a point guard. He's a freaking,
His score.
yeah, he's just like a combo guard, but more of a scoring type of guard. But yeah, I agree. And I was going to say that too as well. Tyus Jones. They can't have Derek White, who's he played above his head throughout the playoffs, but the last 3 games he shit the bed. He had 2 points last game and 1 point in game 5, and he was averaging 16 up until I think game 2 or 3, and then he started slowing down. But obviously game 1 he had like a career kind of night.
Yeah, it became clear that game 1 was just like a ridiculous outlier in terms of Boston's role players showing up in the fourth quarter, because Warriors won 4 of the last 5 games after that, and Boston really struggled.
Yeah,
Draymond called it, right? Even on his podcast. He's like, hey, who made those threes? What were they shooting percentage-wise throughout the season? I mean, it could have totally shifted and gone in the other direction. Who knows, right? But they stayed true to the game plan and ended up working.
Yeah, if Boston would have held on in game 4, it's a completely different series, obviously. But that's really when things started turning around. Like the fourth quarter of game 4, or even the third quarter of game 4.
Iconic Curry game.
The buzzard by Poole in the game, was that game 4? The backboard?
That was game 5, but that was a very important shot too, because
Oh, that's right.
that gave the Warriors the lead going into the 4th of game 5, and then they
never looked
stopped
back.
firing in game 5 and just ran away with it.
They never looked back. Yeah, Jordan Poole had not the best start to the series, but then the last 4 games he stepped up and was a 4th leading scorer. And the bench scoring was crazy for the Warriors. I think for sure the last 2 games. I don't know about the game 3 how it was, but the last 2 games they've outscored the Boston bench like significantly. Like this last game was 19-4, I believe. Or no, 21-4, and then the game before that was like 30-5. Like, so it's like those 2 right there. Outside of the turnover battle, that the Warriors were winning, the rebounding battle, which was oddly back and forth in games where like the Warriors lost the rebounding battle, yet they won the turnover battle on the bench, so they won the games. There's so many weird variables in the box from the team stats. Like you look at typical stats, you would assume one team should have won that game, but it didn't really happen. To wrap up, just want to look at the box score and just look at the player stats for game 6. Just if anybody wants to comment on a specific player that we haven't talked about yet, let me know. But for the Golden State Warriors, Wiggins, 18, 6, and 5, 7 for 18, 4 from 9 from 3. So like hasn't been shooting great from 3 in the series. But just huge, shooting above 50%. averaged 18 and 9 in the whole series. He averaged 3 rebounds in the regular season. So for him to 3x that number, including, the 2 games where he had 16 and 12.
And Amir, his defensive stats.
Oh my God. Thank you for letting me scroll over it. 3 blocks and 4 steals. Like, just utter insanity right there. Just like the fact that he locked up and maybe outperformed Jason Tatum overall in the series, right? Like,
I think that's fair to say.
Even if they were even,
I think Wiggins was better than Tatum this series.
Second best player in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if not points wise, but like he was just more effective.
Just overall impact on the game.
Overall impact. Yep, Draymond we didn't talk much about, but just big bounce back the last 2 games, 12, 12, and 8, 5 for 10 from just field goals. So 50%, 2 from 5 from 3. I know he hit a couple big threes, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 5 turnovers, which is bad, but that those turnovers don't matter when he's getting those statistics. A huge bounce back for him. I think he had 3 bad games to his standards and 3 good games, so he evened out, which is great. We talked about Clay, 12, 5 and 2, 5 for 20. Pretty bad game for him. Took some tough shots, but again, he had 3 games of 20 in a row to get them to this point, right? So like that was significant enough. Curry, we mentioned 34, 7 and 7, 6 threes, just 1 block, 2 steals, just spectacular. Had some insane 3-pointers, throughout that game. Otto Porter at 6, and then on the bench, the glove or the mitten had 6 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Just spectacular on the defensive end as usual.
Plus 18, highest plus minus in the entire game.
And he was like plus 16 the game before, which was the highest.
Yeah.
So Jordan Poole, only 18 minutes was just surprising, but 15 points.
15 points in 18 minutes,
assists.
that's impressive.
Yeah, 5 for 12, 3 for 8. And then on the Celtics side, only 2 people showed up, in my opinion, and that was Jaylen Brown and Horford, which is a joke because Al Horford is outplaying, their young superstar. He's 36 years old, but Brown 34-7-3, pretty good game, but he had 5 turnovers, which is the story of the series. We talked about 13, 3 and 7, 5 turnovers. Horford did great though, 19 and 14, a block and a couple steals. Smart, just non-existent. I think he was just making some boneheaded plays. He was just trying to be more theatrical, right? Trying to like just get calls through the refs and just wasn't playing with like a high IQ. Robert Williams, 10, 7 and 5. He's going to be a special
He's
player.
been decent all series too.
100%.
Yeah. We got dude. We gotta give Robert Williams a shout out, man. That guy's ceiling, man. He's special, dude. He might have been probably one of your top 2 players for sure on the Celtics all series. And this guy,
And above me.
And he wasn't 100% either.
he's playing with bad knees, man. He was out there just being a monster. That guy's potential, he's gonna be special.
Yeah, Ben Wallace-esque kind of guy, like with that defensive capability. He's not going to be a threat on the offensive side, but he's going to be like an
alley-oops if
He's still young. He can develop his game.
If they penetrate to the basket, he'll be there for alley-oops all day. Like,
yeah, he's like a DeAndre Jordan kind of Ben Wallace threat lob, but just like a difference maker on the boards in the defense, right?
Basically, like a way better version than Bam.
Or Christian Wood.
Yeah, he's on the Mavs now. That doesn't hurt me.
You're still going to root for him. The only guy who roots for former teammates, because he's been a fan long enough that like over the history of time, you're going to be able to root for every single team.
Christian Wood was so good on the Detroit Pistons, and then he got traded to the Rockets, and he played well, and then I don't know what happened.
He's not part of the future, man. Paolo is the future.
Hey, I read that Kevin Porter Jr. might be moving.
Yeah, dude, that's one of those situations they can let this season play out and figure out what they want to do with it. But Green and Paolo, that's the future, baby. Thursday.
It's not a Rockets podcast, so sorry guys.
And Sengun. and Sengun.
Next episode.
He can talk about
until the next episode.
No, let me get this. Bonnie can talk about the Rockets every second of every day now.
Dude, Amir, you bring up the Heat every fucking podcast. Let Bonnie get his fucking time to talk.
Yeah, no, so I'm sorry that my team wasn't supposed to be a playoff team. They got the 11th seed with
Shut up.
Hey, Amir.
And also, you're a Boston fan, so shut the hell up. Anyway, go, Bonnie. Talk about the Rockets. Don't talk about Harden. Because Harden's gone. You can talk about all you want.
Stop,
Amir,
man.
has anybody ever told you you're like a more handsome Oscar Isaac?
Not today, my friend. Rosacea.
Just letting you know. I want you to know that.
You know who you remind me of?
Oh my
A
God.
thinner, more fit, handsomer, not as funny, Adam Sandler.
Okay. All right,
Awesome. You dress better.
I'll check it out on Netflix. Good movie.
As long as you don't talk about Harden, you can talk about the Rockets all you want because I don't hate the Rockets anymore. I never hated
How
the
do you
Rockets.
talk about the Rockets without talking about Harden? It makes no sense.
What'd you say?
I said, how do you talk about the Rockets without talking about Harden?
I said,
Now you talk
I got-
about Jimmy, and he's from Fresno. That's what you talk about.
Panos, take off your earmuffs.
Jalen Green,
Are those headphones or are they like sound?
I don't have AirPods like you guys. Or
I was saying
external
that Vonnie,
speakers.
well, I was saying
That's-
Vonnie could talk about the Rockets as long as he didn't talk about the Harden because Harden's gone, so I don't have a disdain for the Rockets anymore. I never.
How
had.
did they put Philly like number 10 or 9, whatever, for rankings when Harden's back? That makes no sense.
What are you talking about? Give us context, my friend. What are you
Bro,
just-
power rankings. What are you talking about?
Because he's
What's
not
your
go-
power rankings for next year?
this is the one. This is
Top,
the one.
top five power rankings for next year.
Dylan,
Dylan.
Lakers.
Dylan.
No, we'll save that for another episode. This is the NBA Finals recap, Neil. We have plenty of off season and I'm sure we can come up with a ton of ideas for content, but we'll save that for later. I do want, before we hop off, I do want to just commemorate and say today is the 8-year anniversary of the shot. Not the shot that Big Bob made against the Sacramento Kings when Pat Donahue rigged it. And the only reason why the Lakers was it 17? They should have 16. This freaking Donahue is a freaking rat. Not big shot, Bob shot, but
Hey, he didn't rig that shot though.
What's that?
He didn't rig that shot. That was clean.
That's true. You're right. But anyway,
7
8-year
championships.
Shut up, Boston fan. 8-year anniversary on this day today. Ray Allen, Shuttlesworth hit that game-tying 3 against the San Antonio
Bro,
Spurs in Miami.
cares?
And left to tie it to win our 3rd championship
He's got to bring
So
the heat involved again every fucking podcast, every time.
every time. And
Every fucking
Quota Jimmy Butler references this episode.
I haven't said any Jimmy, but I'll say that D Wade at 23 won his first finals, and he was
Enough.
finals MVP. He didn't choke. Magic Johnson, 19, first finals. He won. Steph Curry should have been finals MVP at age 26, 8 years ago. First finals, they won. Jason Tatum's not that guy. Hot take. He's 24. Use that.
dude, Magic special, bro.
So is Wade. 23, baby. He won.
Not as special.
Yeah. Okay. I thought
But
you were.
he's special, but he's special.
He is. I thought you were gonna say because he had Shaq. I'm like, shut the hell up. Magic had.
No, yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you
he
want
had
to talk,
Kareem, Kobe had Shaq.
they all had everybody. Someone had.
Parker had Ginobili and Duncan.
I mean, more so done.
Who's also getting disrespect on one of the greatest teams, by the way. They're a fucking solid team.
They are. We'll get back to that in future episodes during the summer. We have plenty of time. But anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for joining today. Really enjoyed the conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care. Nice.
Real.
Bye, guys.